the Dice vs Cards. Today we're looking at Campy Creatures, a 2 to 5 player competitive auction and bidding game where you want to be using the least amount of resources to get the most amount of points on each turn. And also hand management, because those resources come in the form of the cards in your hand that are represented by those creatures. So you are dealing with the aforementioned Campy Creatures. Don't ask me why they're campy, that's best left unknown. But you're looking to try and capture as many mortals or fresh meat as you can, so that the mad scientist behind all this, pulling all the strings, gets to carry out his crazy, dastardly experiments. So let's see how this plays and whether this could be the next game for you. So the object of the game is to be the player with the most points after 3 rounds of play. So every player is going to start with the same 9 cards in their hand. And each turn you're also going to be drawing a number of mortals equal to the number of players in the game, because those are the cards that you're going to be auctioning and bidding for. It's then, starting with the 9 cards you'll have at the start of each round, your turn to each simultaneously pick one of the cards in your hand and place them face down until everyone's ready to reveal what they've chosen. But what do these cards do for us? Well, in the top left hand corner of every card is the creature's strength value. And that's going to be the primary determining factor as to who's going to get to pick from the mortals first. So normally a higher strength creature, that player would be able to pick before someone that's played a lower strength card. But to add some strategy to this, most of the creatures you can play also have a special ability in the bottom of the card. And they're either represented by 1 pip, like the mummy card here, or 2 pips, like the invader card. So what that simply means is that those abilities either take place before mortals are taken from the pool, in the instance where there's 1 pip. So this mummy, before anyone takes any creatures or any mortals, says that it will capture immediately if a kaiju is in play. Well, we can see the kaiju here, so if someone else has played the kaiju, that will ignore the fact that there's only 3 strength, because that player will be able to capture a mortal immediately. So where there's a card with 2 pips, like the invader here, that only takes place when that player actually captures a mortal. So wherever the invader comes where their strength is 4, be it first, second or third in this example, once they capture a mortal, it basically says you can capture 2 mortals if possible. So rounds are going to play out like that, where any card that you've used goes away until we get to the next round of play. And so you then get to add the deduction elements in, because you know very roughly what the other players have used and what they've still got to use. And that will help you in strategically planning, you know, how you want to bid, how you want to win those auctions moving forward. Because every turn then you're simply going to draw another 3 mortal cards from the deck, and you're going to be bidding on them. It's that simple. You rinse and repeat that process then until the end of the round. When you score at the end of each round, you're going to be counting, in the example of the archaeologist here or the deep sea diver, simply positive or negative points. But there are modules in the game like these teenagers here, and this card will get you 3 teenagers, and that simply means that if you've then got the most teenagers compared to all the other players, you'll get 7 points for having the most, and whoever has the second most teenagers gets 4 points. So I'm sure you can get the gist of how you're going to score. Tiebreakers are determined, as I've already mentioned, by this clash-o-meter. So any time 2 creatures have a strength that's equal, or an ability means that that's the case, then the player whose tile here is on the top will actually resolve the tiebreaker. And any time you take benefit from that, your tile is then placed at the bottom. So you can see that that will tick over. The more you win the tiebreakers, you'll then get to the back of the queue for the next time there's a tiebreaker. So you'll also be looking to accrue location symbols here, like on the deep sea diver. So it's not all doom and gloom if you took this deep sea diver, because the player with the most of these location symbols gets to activate the location ability at the end of the turn. So the locations for round 1 and 2 are the same, but then there is a final location that just gives you a special ability one last time that's generally that little bit more powerful. So then after the end of 3 rounds, you've kept track of your score. The player, as you'd expect, with the most points is then the winner. So that's how this game plays. What did I think of it? So who is this for? Well, it's a lightweight game, and if you really like that sort of cartoony but spooky monster theme and vibe, you're going to get that in spades here. It also has elements of deduction and bluffing. So if you want all of those mechanics into a lightweight game that's easy to get to the table, then there's probably something here for you. So you might want to consider this if you liked The Butterfly Garden, published by Dr. Finn's Games, or For Sale, published by Griffin Games. So in terms of gameplay, well, the auction and bidding elements of the game have to be sound here, otherwise this is going to be a non-starter. And I'm pleased to say that by and large, everything is done quite well mechanically there. As you'd expect, you've got the simultaneous card selection, you reveal all at the same time. That all works pretty dandy. And then it's got a really intriguing and actually very well thought out use of abilities, both before you pick or take your mortals from the auction pool and after as well. So you can have some that might negate an ability of the player to your left, or you might be able to discard or give the mortal that you capture to someone else. And the way that it balances the before and after elements really does hit the right spot for me. I'm really impressed with that element. The tiebreaker system as well is a nice little neat addition and works really well. Yes, you have to keep some churn in making sure you've got what those tiers and where people are in the tiebreaker. There's a bit of housekeeping there, but as far as the system, it remains fair. Yes, you might be lucky in the timing because it's used both for the use of abilities and for the actual taking of mortals, but you know, you win some, you lose some. It's a really good system overall. So scaling works okay, this is fine to play at 2 players, but this is one of the rare games, I suppose because it's a bit of a pseudo party game, that is probably better at the 4 and 5 player count. And that's because there's going to be a little bit more suspense in the auction and bidding process. If you've got more cards available, you know, you want to be able to either bet in the middle because you're content with getting a card that's in the middle, or bet low because you're not fussed about the lowest valued card, and do similarly with the highest value. So I would rather play this with more players. So that's not necessarily a negative, but it's definitely something that I bear in mind when I'm deciding whether I want to get this to the table. And I would say as well, perhaps it's a teensy little bit unbalanced in terms of the mortals. They've done a good job of adding modules of mortals, so the gameplay is different every time. But that does, to me, make for a slightly varying gameplay experience. Some of those modules are better than others, and I would have liked to have seen perhaps a bit more playtesting in that regard. But the negatives certainly are pale in comparison to what is a really tidy package mechanically and in terms of the overall gameplay experience. In terms of the look and feel and theme of the game, well, you've already probably seen by now how wonderfully produced this is. I can't say enough positives about pretty much every element of the production quality, the components. The art style is just perfect for the theme that they're trying to evoke. So for a small box game, I don't see how they could have done any better. The theme is in there if you want to find it, but that's not what this game is necessarily about. You get that sense, that vibe from the cards, from the creatures. Enough said. So with all that being said, Dice vs Cards are going to give a final score of 7 out of 10. This isn't a game without its minor flaws, but overall this is one that I'm glad is part of my collection, and I would easily recommend it to you all. So that's it from me. I'll see you next time. What about instead Clever Creatures? Cozy Creatures? No, that's not going to work, is it? I got it. Campy Creatures. Nailed it.